Meet Mr. and Mrs. Chervich, both great lawyers with soaring careers. Dana Chervich practices arbitration, while Mark Chervich practices family law. While Dana is intent on putting companies and people together, Mark wakes up daily to separate couples. Then meet Mr. and Mrs. Noble. The Nobles run a reality show whose days of popularity seem to be coming to an end. As such, Brett Noble is trying hard to catch the attention of the paparazzi as he enters a restaurant. Clearly, no one is interested in him, but they humor him with a photo or two. He is meeting Gwen, his wife's assistant and best friend. Shortly after, Mrs. Tabby Noble enters the restaurant, and the paparazzi are also not interested in her dwindling celebrity status. Tabby finds Gwen and Brett having a moment that appears to be a date. She makes it known to everyone that she just caught her husband cheating and immediately asks for a divorce. After creating a scene, she furiously leaves the restaurant, with Brett chasing after her. They definitely have the paparazzi's attention now. The Chervichs are celebrating their 7th anniversary. They've made it a tradition to celebrate it for several days to match the number of years they've been together. With classical and humorous legal arguments, both parties present issues of what they would like their partners to work on. After reaching an agreement, they then gift each other. Mark is about to ask Dana something important when both their phones ring. They receive notifications about meetings they both have the following morning. The next morning, Uncle Paul informs Dana that she will be representing Tabby, the reality TV show host, in a divorce case. She is hesitant because she no longer practices family law. Uncle Paul runs the firm Dana works in, and representing Tabby is important to Paul because Tabby will be hosting a fundraising for the firm in a few weeks. Dana meets Tabby, who tells her about their love story. They've been together for 16 years and have achieved so much together. Dana tries to tell her to consider solving her marital conflict instead of going on a full-blown divorce, but Tabby is not ready for peace talks. Tabby ends the discussion by saying that she wants everything from Brett. Dana then advises her to try to keep the details of the divorce as low-key as possible. Meanwhile, Mark's senior partner, Lois Gale, informs him that he will represent Brett. Brett is a fitness enthusiast who is also hell-bent on getting the upper hand in the divorce and getting everything. Mark tells him it is impossible since New York is a no-fault equitable distribution state. Mark also tries to get Brett to reconsider the divorce, but Brett says that he actually wants to sue Tabby for emotional damage. The meeting ends, and Mark assures Lois that there will be no leak about the divorce to the press. Later that evening, Mark and Dana are watching TV at home when Tabby and Brett announce their divorce. Mark and Donna have no idea that they are both representing the couple and working in opposite teams. Following this announcement, both lawyers are called by their seniors to inquire whether they approve the release of the statements. Consequently, they are instructed to clean it up. They continue to watch TV, and Mark seems to have something important to say but brushes it off. Dana then gifts him a fidget spinner, and they continue to enjoy their evening passionately. Early the next morning, both lawyers advise their clients to try and keep the proceedings quiet, but the couple is determined to get back at each other. The two then get served divorce papers, which they continue to discuss on their reality show. Eventually, Mark and Dana discover they are working on opposite sides, but decide to be professional. Paul and Lois advise them to get the best of the situation. Mark meets Brett to discuss his assets, and Brett suggests a background check on Mark. Dana also goes through the details of Tabby's assets, but still insists on keeping everything. She then suggests doing a background check on Dana. Dana and Mark are on a date when Mark finally tells her he wants to have children. Dana points out it's a huge step, but gives it a thought. Their clients then notify them that they will be on a talk show the following morning. On the talk show, Tabby is bashed by her fans for abandoning her marriage. Dana is forced to call in, pretend to be a supportive fan, and try to save her. Dana is scared about having kids and asks Mark if he could compromise and get a dog instead. The following day, Lois meets a production executive from the Nobles reality show, and Paul does too. It's the day for arbitration, and the attorneys present their clients. Tabby and Brett seem not to agree on dividing their property, so the arbitrator suggests they proceed to court. Dana is not a good public speaker and does not want to go to court. Both attorneys are alerted about Gwen's location and look for her, as she could be a possible material witness in the Nobles case. Gwen is not interested in talking to them, so she runs off. Back at the firm, Paul gives Dana an invite to the fundraiser gala. Mark is supposed to have dinner with Dana, but Lois asks him to meet Gwen. Mark does not disclose to Dana that he is meeting Gwen, but Kim, Dana's assistant, finds out and informs her. Kim then walks over to their table and subpoenas Gwen for the second arbitration. Dana and Mark then go through each other's background checks and are shocked to find out some details about each other's pasts. They argue back and forth over Mark being in jail and Dana being in prison in the past, but reconcile soon enough. The Nobles' case is taking a toll on their marriage, and they agree to finalize the arbitration the following day and return to their lives. Gwen does not show up for the arbitration, and the Nobles are not ready for world peace. Against the advice of their lawyers, the Nobles choose to go to court instead of amicably dividing their assets. Dana is worried about going to court, so she asks Paul to find someone to represent Tabby. Paul says he believes in her, then asks her to get Mark to bring Brett to the gala. Paul thinks putting Brett and Tabby together might be a good opportunity for them to reconcile. Mark is great at court proceedings, and Lois asks him to prioritize his firm so that he can win, even if it means humiliating his wife. She insinuates that he might be promoted to partner if he wins the case, and so she urges him to go as hard as he can on his wife/opponent. Later that evening, Mark encourages his wife that she will do great in court, and they will always be a great team. Mark is also confident that Dana will make a great mother and asks her to give it a chance. The next day, Dana goes through Mark's phone and discovers he is meeting Gwen again. She then secretly follows him to the meeting. After Mark is done seeing Gwen, Dana ambushes her and pleads with her to be a witness and support her best friend. Gwen tells Dana to ask Tabby to pay up what she owes her, or she will make the divorce really messy for her. She drops some papers as she leaves, and Dana cannot help but notice Gwen is having money problems. Later that evening, Mark tells Dana that he met Gwen and she is willing to help the case for both of them. Dana is happy that Mark is no longer keeping secrets. She is even more pleased to hear that Mark is willing to quit his job to be a full-time father. As they bond over being parents in the future, they receive notifications that the court proceedings will begin the following Monday. They then go on a dinner, and before they sit, they both secretly collect information about their opponents keeping money from each other. Dana then asks Mark to bring Brett to the fundraiser. It might be a great opportunity for Brett and Tabby to remember all the love they once shared. Since they also love the spotlight, they might be on their best behavior in front of the cameras. Dana is preparing Tabby for court when she shares her struggles with getting pregnant. Tabby has wanted kids for a long time and encourages Dana not to worry about being a good mother and just give her best. While Mark is prepping Brett, he tells him that if he had a prenup, things would have been easier with the divorce. Brett points out that a prenup is a sign of distrust, which leaves Mark doubting his decision to sign one when he is getting married. At the fundraising gala, Tabby is in her normal element in front of cameras. Kim informs Dana that Gwen just bought a commercial property in cash, which is odd because a few days ago, she couldn't even make rent. Mark then joins Dana and seems to be bugged by why she wanted a prenup when they were getting married. Their conversation is interrupted by Brett, who makes a grand entrance. His presence throws Tabby a little off guard, but they eventually begin warming up to each other. Dana and Mark cheer on the sideline, hoping that it is the beginning of an amicable resolution. The attorneys are then informed by their assistants that Brett and Tabby have been hiding money from each other and are not as naive as they look. At that moment, the Nobles go erratic and create a scene. Their attorneys manage to separate them, but not before the members of the public get a live stream of the drama. The day of the court hearing has finally arrived, and Dana is still scared. Mark cheers her on, and she finally gets her confidence. However, as she is about to present the assets in question, she bumps into Gwen's invoice, which she collected when they last met. She asks for a recess to follow up on it, and the judge allows it. She goes over to the commercial property that Gwen just bought and asks her whether she is laundering money for Brett. Gwen has no choice but to show up in court to avoid being implicated in a crime. On seeing her, Tabby confronts her for stealing Brett from her. Gwen confesses that she did not steal Brett. The whole time they were together, all Brett did was talk about how great Tabby was. This development moves Tabby to tears, and the two profess their love for each other in court. In front of all the cameras, they change their minds about getting divorced and give love a second chance. Brett goes on one knee and asks his wife to marry him. Well, that makes no sense, but moving on swiftly. Later that evening, Dana and Mark are watching TV when they see the Nobles announce that they will be having a new show dubbed Noble Love. In the new show, the Nobles will advise troubled couples like them to find the spark they've lost and give love a second chance like they did. Dana and Mark wonder how they put that up so soon, even though they were divorcing that morning. They realize something is amiss and find Gwen for answers. Gwen confirms that it was all a con and that they were never getting divorced. The Nobles have been struggling to sell a show for some time, so they paid Gwen to act like Brett's missus. In return, they bought her the commercial building, but ended up tarnishing her name as the husband snatcher. Mark and Dana discuss these findings with their superiors and are surprised to find out that Paul and Lois knew the plan all along. They are shocked at the sheer lack of integrity that Paul and Lois have showcased, whom they've considered mentors for a long time. Later that evening, the Cherviches drink with their assistants and Gwen. They are unhappy that the nobles go scot-free after pulling that stunt. Gwen suggests that she could get back at them by revealing the money they are both hiding from each other. However, she would need a good actor to pretend to be her husband, and TJ, the bartender, is up to the task. It's time for another episode of Noble Love, and Tabby is astounded to see that Gwen, now married, is her guest on the show. She has to save face, so the show continues. Gwen and TJ say that the biggest problem in their marriage is that they recently found out they are hiding money from each other. Brett and Tabby decipher that this is a direct attack on their marriage, and they end up taking a commercial break. The mission of causing havoc in the Noble Love has been accomplished. The Cherviches, on the other hand, have found standing in their love and have decided to continue working as a team. They both meet their dishonest mentors and tell them they cannot continue working with them. 1 year later, they opened their new firm, Chervich & Chervich, and are doing great as a team. Dana is also expectant, indicating that she let go of her fears of becoming a mother.